हम म्यांमार अरकान स्टेट से बिलोंग करते हैं। हमारे वहाँ पर जेनोसाइड चल रहा है अरकान में, म्यांमार में। तो हम 2012 में वहाँ पर ज़्यादा हमारे ऊपर परेशानी हो गया, तो हम जान बचाने के लिए यहाँ पर आए थे।
India's refugee policy is back in spotlight ever since a minister contradicted the government's announcement of providing security and housing to the Rohingya refugees in the national capital, Delhi. Rohingya refugees are designated as illegal foreigners by India. So naturally, the announcement was a surprise. But turns out that was not the case. Hours after the government announced that it will shift the Rohingya refugees to flats designated for economically weaker sections, the Indian Home Ministry issued a clarification. It said that illegal foreigners are to be kept in the detention centers till their deportation as per law. The issue of settlement and deportation of the Rohingya refugees is not new to India. According to the Human Rights Watch, an estimated 40,000 Rohingyas are in India. At least 20,000 of them are registered with the UN Human Rights Commission. The question, however, is, what must India do with them? Resettle them or deport them back to Myanmar? Even larger questions, what does the Indian law say about refugees? How are refugees treated in India? Are all refugees treated in the same manner? The current figure of refugees globally is over 20 million. Of these, more than half come from 5 countries: Syria, Venezuela, Myanmar, South Sudan, and Afghanistan. The Indian government does not officially maintain a record of the number of refugees in India. Though, according to the UNHCR, India is home to at least 3 lakh refugees. Of these, the majority of refugees come from Sri Lanka and Tibet, while others belong to other nationalities. To put things into context, it is the United Nations 1951 Refugee Convention that protects refugees around the world. Despite India's rich history in welcoming refugees, India has not signed the United Nations Convention. This technically means that India does not have a policy or a law that protects refugees. India in 2003 said that the definition of a refugee in the UN Convention is narrow and fails to recognize the fundamental reasons which give rise to refugee movements. India has also repeatedly said that such immigrants or refugees are susceptible to recruitment by terror groups. This is not only infringe on rights of Indian citizens, but also poses grave security challenges. Any refugee entering India is termed as a foreign national. Those entering the country without a visa are treated as illegal immigrants under the Foreigners Act or the Indian Passport Act. There are no guidelines with respect to access to courts, education, or travel documents. There are refugee camps, but refugees don't have any real status in the country. The only protection they have is the right to life under Article 21 and protection against arbitrary abuse of power under Article 14 of the Constitution. While India may not have signed the UN Convention, but India is a signatory to various other human rights conventions against torture, child and women's rights, and racism. Most of these protect refugees coming to India. In 2019, the Indian government passed the Citizenship Amendment Act, which fastens the process of Indian citizenship for non-Muslim illegal immigrants from the neighboring countries, such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. But the law was widely criticized and triggered protests across the country. So far, refugees have been dealt with on a case-to-case basis. India supported Bangladesh's 1971 War of Independence from Pakistan and took in tens of thousands of refugees from there. In the southern state of Tamil Nadu, Sri Lankan Tamil refugees were provided an allowance by the state government and allowed to seek jobs. India has for years supported the Dalai Lama and Tibetan refugees who followed him into exile and sought asylum in the country. Millions of refugees who entered India from East Pakistan during partition in 1947 were sheltered in camps till it was safe for them to return to Bangladesh. Following the recent Afghanistan crisis, the Indian government had announced a new category of emergency electronic visas for Afghans who were willing to come to India with a validity period of 6 months. The government now plans to deport Rohingyas from Myanmar as it considers them illegal migrants. It's been 5 years since the Myanmar's military launched a ferocious crackdown against country's Rohingya Muslim population and forced several Rohingyas to flee the country. Experts and human rights activists believe that pushing Rohingyas back to Myanmar, where their lives will be in danger, will breach the right to life under Constitution.
With all said and done, the controversy does underline the fact that India needs a universal legislative policy on refugees. With camera person Aditya, this is Divya Uppal reporting from Delhi for DNA India.